Today on TOKKANTE, we're looking at German watchmaking. If you're willing to look beyond Swiss watchmaking, you'll discover that German watchmaking can actually offer some of the best value, whether you're looking at entry-level pieces, luxury or hierology. So we'll go over an overview a little bit of German watchmaking and its history and characteristics, and then we'll look at three price segments: below 5,000 US dollars, 5 to 15,000, and then above $15,000, and some of the brands that offer the best value and that you should be looking at if you want to discover more about German watchmaking. Hi everyone and welcome, I'm Ben. So if you want to discuss the topic of German watchmaking, you'll discover that not a lot of people know a lot about it. But German watchmaking actually started even before Swiss watchmaking. It started in the 17th century in the Black Forest, and then in the 18th century in Pforzheim, which is the city of gold, famous for goldsmith and jewelry. Glashütte Original nowadays also manufactures its dial in Pforzheim. And then eventually we move on in 1945 to Glashütte. The village of Glashütte was founded actually in 1450, and it was a mining village. But you know, fast forward to early 1806, I think it was destroyed by a fire, and it got into a lot of hard times. But that's where you know, A.lange took the opportunity to sign a deal with the city or with the county of Saxony in Germany, and was able to start German watchmaking as we know it now in the city of Glashütte. So what we notice with German brands is that most of them actually are independent. Very few are owned by a big group. You have, of course, Glashütte Original, that is part of Swatch, and you have A.lange & Söhne, that is part of Richemont. But beside that, all the other brands are either independent or family owned. Contemporary German watchmaking today is all over Germany, still in the historic center of the Black Forest with brands like Henhardt, as well as in Frankfurt with Sinn, in Dresden, in Pforzheim, and of course in the city of Glashütte and other places. Overall, if we look at German watchmaking, we have about 50 German brands, as opposed to over 1,000 plus Swiss brands. So you have a lot more exclusivity with German watchmaking. The second thing is the design aesthetic. German watchmaking is a lot more restrained, a lot more understated than Swiss watchmaking. It's a lot more function driven. I've talked about that in my Sinn video. It's a lot more about details and engineering and clean design, Teutonic or Bauhaus design. Whereas the Swiss is a lot more you know, romantic, if you will, or circumvoluted. It's a lot more about the design of it. And then finally, when you move on to, you know, the top of the pyramid and hierology with German watchmaking, you realize that they maintain a lot of watchmaking, pocket watchmaking. Is that a thing? Pocket watchmaking or pocket watchmaking tradition. With you know, the jeweled gold chatons and the hand engraved you know, balance cock, swan neck regulators, the 3/4 plate, which is really from pocket watchmaking, and then the German silver, which is actually it's not silver, it's a nickel copper alloy. So now let's look at some examples of what you can get in German watchmaking in the $5,000 or below segment. If you're looking in that segment, most likely you're looking at Swiss brands like Breitling, like Oris, like Longines, like Tag Heuer, or like maybe some second-hand Omegas. But if you're willing to look you know, on the German side of things, what can you get? For example, for pilot watches, you could be looking at brands like Laco or Stowa. You know, Laco started in 1925, Stowa in 1927. They are very, very famous for making Flieger Type A and Type B pilot watches for the Luftwaffe, the German military during the Second World War. If you're looking at pilot chronograph as well, you might be looking at Sinn. I've made an entire video about Sinn, so you can look at that. Sinn, very famous for, you know, engineering and pilot chronographs, the 103, the 756, you know, the Easy M10, for example. As well as Henhardt. Henhardt, still based in the Black Forest, they released the first German chronograph in 1939. Now also let's look at diving watches. Sinn, once again, Sinn and Damasco, very good brands to look at. Sinn with a U1, you know, Damasco also make diving watches made of German U-boat steel. They also have similar kind of technology, Sinn with the tegimenting and Damasco with the ice hardening. You know, very engineer technology kind of oriented type of brands. that offer a lot for the money. Then of course we have to talk about Nomos. If you're looking for a dress watch, then probably the one brand that you may have heard of below the 5,000 that offers the best value probably in German watchmaking is Nomos. With 2,000, maybe 2,500 US dollars, with Nomos you can get into an in-house movement with very, very good finishing for the price. And yes, it's a specific type of aesthetic. It's Bauhaus. It's very it's very Germanic, obviously, but it's very simple. It's very flat kind of design, very long lugs, and kind of dressy. But if that's what you're looking for, then definitely give Nomos a look. And lastly, one brand that you may have never heard of is Jaeger and Benzinger. So Jochen Benzinger is a German watchmaker that is trying to perpetuate the dying art of guilloche, engine turning guilloche, as well as skeletonization, or even the Breguet frosting on the dials. It's someone that has 3 different brands, and the entry-level one is a cooperation with Jaeger, so Jaeger and Benzinger. For below $5,000 or just around that price, like it starts at $39.50, I think, up to $5K for the chronograph. Offers amazing dials. You can get actually hand-engraved guilloche, frosting, hand-engraved movement. They use a Unita 6498. But what they can do, what they can offer for this price is almost to the level of high horology. And those are basically watches made by the master himself, true independent watchmaking for below $5,000. That's something you're not gonna get with Swiss watchmaking. So in conclusion, for this price segment, what I want to say is that Swiss brands, are not bad. I'm not saying they are bad. But if you're willing to, look beyond that and look at German brands, you'll realize that they offer a very good alternative and very good value for the price in terms of, brand heritage and technology, in-house movement, and, overall value. So second, now let's look at the 5,000 to 15,000 US dollar segment. It's a pretty wide segment, but if you're into Swiss watchmaking, then this is where you look at your Rolex, at your Panerai, obviously your Omega, your Jaeger-LeCoultre even, and your Grand Seiko and Zenith, etc., etc. But if you're looking at the German side of things, then what can you get into for that money? First, we can again look at Nomos, which I mentioned in my previous segment. But if you're willing to spend over 5K with Nomos, you can get into more serious pieces like the Zurich or the World Timer, or even more higher end piece with beautifully made in-house movements. But okay, let's move on from Nomos. One big advantage, I think, in that price bracket is that you can really get into the handmade independent watches with German watchmakers. For example, you can get into a Dornblut und Sohn. Watchfinder made a very nice video about, I think he called it the best kept secret of watchmaking, and I do agree. You can totally customize those watches and work directly with the watchmaker. It's the father and son making the watches for you. You can customize absolutely everything, and you get incredible value for your watch. Actually, the most basic ones start right below 5,000, and then it moves up from there. But between 5 and 10K, you'll get a one-of-a-kind watch. For this price, you can also look at handshell watches based off Hamburg. Then you can look at Tutima, obviously. Tutima also starts below 5K with third-party movements. But then if you're willing to go above that, you can get into their in-house movement and even all the way to minute repeater. And if I'm not wrong, I think Tutima invented the flying tourbillon. Not 100% sure on that. You can comment below, but I think I've heard something about that. And then finally we get into Glashütte Original. I think personally Glashütte Original offers the best value of all German watchmaking for what you get for the price you pay. Definitely with them between 5 to 15 you can get incredible pieces. The CQ, for example, the CQ Panorama date diving watch. You can watch many videos on YouTube where they will tell you that this is better than a Submariner. then yes, of course, there's always the question of, oh, it doesn't retain value as much and the value will tank. Well, you be smart about it, you buy it pre-owned once the value has stabilized, and then you have nothing to worry about. But what you get for this price is unbelievable. The level of watchmaking, the level of decoration in the in-house movements is very beautiful. This is where you actually get into higher horology at this point. This is definitely at the level of a Jaeger-LeCoultre or Zenith, if not better. And then another one you should be looking at is then Jochen Benzinger. I mentioned it in the previous segment, but now this is, he has 3 brands, remember? So this is his main brand. This is basically named after himself. He used to be, or still is, the engraver for Fabergé. So he specializes in skeletonized dial, and he does incredible work with his watches in his main line, Benzinger. So do check him out, because what you get for the price you pay at this level of watchmaking is incredible value. In Swiss watchmaking, if you wanted to get into true independent, you have to go to the FP Journe and Laurent Ferrier, a much higher price point. What you can get here at below $10,000 basically, it's incredible. Another brand that I forgot to mention is Stefan Koduke. Jenny L also made a video about that. The Koduke 2 is a watch that is on my grey list. It's $9,000. When you think that for basically less than the price of a new Submariner at grey market price, you can get a handmade independent watch at that level. That reminds me of an MB&F. Or this type of watches. Beautiful movement and dial work for under 10K. Third and last, we're looking at the above $15,000 price segment. This is where you're competing with the holy trinity of Swiss watchmaking. It's the Patek Philippe, it's the Vacheron Constantin, it's the Audemars Piguet, but also if you're looking at independent, it's the FP Journe, it's the Laurent Ferrier, it's the De Bethune, or even Credor for Japanese watchmaking. Okay, so what can you get into with German watchmaking at that price level? Well, obviously the elephant in the room is A.lange und Söhne. 15K, you're just getting into it, you might be getting a Saxonia, but the level of finishing with A.lange und Söhne is the same, whether you're getting into the entry level or the triple split. A.lange und Söhne, and I may get some heat for saying that, but it's possibly even better than Patek Philippe in terms of finishing. The datograph released in 1999 was what forced Patek to basically up their level of finishing. A.lange und Söhne created the double split chronograph, and then once Patek came up with one, they created the triple split chronograph. Another one that you would want to look at, the Zeitwerk, which I have right here. So this is my absolute grail. This is what I'm working toward. And at least I have it in a frame if I never have it in real. Another brand which you may have never heard of is Maurice Grossmann. Maurice Grossmann, also based in Glashütte, small brand, incredible work, especially with their hands. They are very famous for their hands, beautiful hands, purple hands, all shaped by hand, polished by hand, extremely thin at the tip. I think it's about 1/10 of a millimeter, and they are purple, and they're heat purple, not painted. And that's extremely difficult to achieve, because you have to get to an extremely exact temperature before the color changes. And I think from purple it will change to blue, or it's blue and then purple. But this is why most hands will be blue. It's easier to achieve. Purple is very difficult to do. But also in terms of their movement, one model that I really love is the Hamatic. The Hamatic movement was based on a very old idea, the Breguet Perpétuel. Breguet had created this movement, actually, which he took from another watchmaker before him. It was the first automatic movement at the time, based on oscillating weight and not a rotor that goes full circle. It kind of worked. It was commercialized, but it never really worked very properly. And then it was eventually abandoned until Rolex came up with a fully automatic perpetual. Maurice Grossmann took that idea back and modernized it, so it's very historically significant, but at the time it's very modern and beautiful, independent, high horology German watchmaking. Another brand, Langenhainer, nothing to do with the Lang from A.lange und Söhne. is a kind of quite modern independent. Actually, the founder, Marco A.lange, left the brand, but the brand still goes on and create very beautiful watches. For example, I'm thinking of the Langenhaine George or Jorg, I'm not sure how you pronounce it in German. It's a rectangular watch with a caliber 8 where you can see the full train of the watch mechanism in the back. Beautiful movement. If I had to have only one rectangular watch, I'll take that over Cartier Tank Centré or Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso any day. Beautiful. I just took a photo of it a few days ago. I put it on my Instagram, so you can go and check that out after lunch. And you know, I wasn't so confident to go into the store and try it because I think it's something like 26,000 euros, but would love it. And the last one that you may want to be looking at is, again, a Benzinger. It's a Grib and Benzinger. So this is the high-end collaboration of the three brands. And this is where he does the most high horology kind of work that he does, offering in-house movement with high complications, high skeletonization, you know, everything basically that you could get from the other two, you'll get it here 100 times better. So some of those brands are very obscure, very niche, you may have never heard of them, and obviously they are not for everyone. But when you think about what you can get for, let's say, 20 to 25,000 US dollars, you know, you could get a Rolex Daytona maybe on the grey market, or you could get a Langenhaine or a Maurice Grossman. You know, this is not about, of course, value retention and thinking about investment, but this is about watch appreciation. The value that you can get with German watchmaking at the high end is incredible if you compare it what you would need to get the same level with Swiss watchmaking. So at the end of the day, you know, who is best? Swiss watchmaking versus German watchmaking? Well, I'm not here to give you the answer of what is best. That depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for value retention, or are you looking for brand heritage, or are you looking for in-house movement, or are you looking for craftsmanship, exclusivity, independent watchmaking? You know, that depends on you. But hopefully, you know, this video, you know, introduced you to some of the brands that you didn't know, and is, you know, a little bit thought-provoking, and is here to give you an alternative into just looking at Swiss watchmaking when you think of luxury or high horology. So thanks for watching. You know, as usual, please consider clicking like, subscribing, and sharing this video. Don't forget to ask yourself what makes you tick. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.